My name is Claire Holloway. I'm 29, live in a sleepy coastal town called Graymore Bay, and work as a school librarian. People think my life is quiet, predictable, even boring, and I let them think that. But behind the tidy cardigans and quiet smiles, there's a hole in my past I've never filled. My mother vanished when I was 7. Not died, vanished. One summer morning, she walked out of our old Victorian house to buy milk and never came back. No car accident, no body, no goodbye. Just gone. My father never spoke of her again. When I asked, he'd say, "She's not your concern anymore." And that would be the end of it. He raised me alone, growing colder each year until he passed away last fall from a stroke. I grieved, but not deeply. We were strangers under the same roof for years. After the funeral, I inherited the house, the creaky, ivy-covered home I'd always tried to avoid. But something pulled me back. Maybe it was guilt, maybe curiosity, or maybe I was tired of pretending I didn't want answers. So here I am, back in the house that stole my mother. The first few days were uneventful. Dusting, fixing broken pipes, reading letters from people who clearly thought my father was still alive. But last night, everything changed. I was in the attic. I'd been avoiding it. It always felt like the heart of the house's silence. But something told me to go there. Maybe I was hoping for a clue. Maybe I was just tired of hiding. I pulled the attic ladder down and climbed up with a flashlight. Dust sparkled like snowflakes in the beam as I stepped onto the wooden floor. Old furniture, boxes, an antique mirror draped in cloth, the usual haunted attic fare. But in the corner, under a moth-eaten blanket, I found a trunk. Locked, but the lock was brittle with rust. One twist of a wrench, and it snapped open. Inside were dozens of letters, bound in a red ribbon. Some were addressed to Margaret Holloway, my mother. Others, to me. The handwriting was hers. My hands shook as I opened the first one. It was dated 3 years after she vanished. Claire, my sweet girl, if you're reading this, it means you finally come back to the house. I hope you never had to. I hope you lived a full life far from this place. But if you're here, I need to tell you the truth. Everything you know is a lie. I never left you. I was taken. I sat on the attic floor for what felt like hours, reading letter after letter. She wrote about fear, about being watched. She said someone was threatening her, someone close to us. She never named him, only called him the shadow in our home. She begged me to forgive her. She claimed she had no choice. "Your father isn't who you think he is," she wrote. "He was part of something dark. I was trying to expose it." That night, I barely slept. Her words echoed in my head like a curse I couldn't shake. My father? Not who I thought? This morning, I went through his desk, searching for anything, documents, journals, keys. What I found chilled me to my core. A photograph, faded, creased, but unmistakable. My mother, standing beside a man in a lab coat. Behind them, a strange logo, a snake coiled around a tree with the words Virex Institute below it. I'd never heard of it. But when I flipped the photo over, I found something more disturbing. My father's handwriting, sharp and angry. She knew too much. And suddenly, I remembered something. A dream I used to have as a child. A white room, my mother crying, a man whispering, "She's not safe anymore." What if it wasn't a dream? What if it was a memory? Now, I can't ignore the signs. Something happened here. Something monstrous. I don't know what the Virex Institute is yet, or what my father did, but I know this. I'm going to find the truth, even if it breaks me. The next morning, I returned to the attic, not out of courage, out of obsession. I couldn't stop thinking about the name Virex Institute or the photo of my mother with that strange man. I needed more, a hint, a map, anything. This time, I searched the trunk more carefully. At the bottom, beneath the letters, was a manila envelope. No label, no seal. Inside, I found several newspaper clippings, yellowed with time, some barely legible. One headline stood out. Local woman disappears after accusing Graymore Biotech Lab of human experimentation. The date? 2 weeks before my mother vanished. I froze. The woman in the photo was unmistakable, my mother, but the name printed under it wasn't Margaret Holloway. It was Margaret Varelli. My breath caught in my throat. I read the article again. She'd filed an anonymous tip with the local press, claiming Virex, then known as Graymore, was experimenting on people without consent. She described volunteers being taken into long-term medical trials and never seen again. The article said she disappeared before she could provide proof. I knew my mother had been a nurse before she married my father, but I never knew she'd worked for a lab, or that her real last name wasn't even Holloway. Why did she change it? I dug deeper. One article mentioned a lead scientist, Dr. Warren Roth, the same man from the photo. My mother's eyes looked wary next to his, almost afraid. He was later relocated after internal investigations revealed irregularities in trial procedures. No charges, no arrests, just silence. Virex was rebranded a year later. New name, new logo, new location. And then another clipping, a missing persons list. It was long, but one name stood out. A boy named Elliot James, aged 6, disappeared the same summer my mother did. His file was marked Case Closed. No explanation. A sticky note had been attached to the article, my mother's handwriting again. Elliot wasn't the first, and he wasn't the last. Follow the list, Claire. The list? My fingers trembled as I pulled out a folded page from the envelope. 12 names, all children, ages 4 to 10, all disappeared between 1995 and 2001, all in towns within 50 miles of Graymore Bay. One of the names was Sarah Roth. My eyes widened. Roth, the same as Dr. Warren Roth. Was she his daughter? And then something twisted in my chest. What if that was the connection? What if these children were related to people inside the Institute? Collateral damage in some twisted experiment? I couldn't sit still anymore. I needed answers. I opened my laptop, hands still shaking. Searching for Virex Institute brought up almost nothing. A few outdated mentions, a shell website, buried information. But when I searched Dr. Warren Roth, something odd appeared. An obituary. Dr. Warren Roth, aged 72, died last year in a house fire outside Dallow Creek. There was a photo attached, older, grayer, but the same cold eyes as in the attic photo. It felt like another door slamming shut. Except, when I looked up the address listed on the obituary, I found something strange. The house was still owned by a Sarah Roth, alive. I leaned back in my chair, thoughts spinning. If Sarah was real, if she was alive, maybe she knew what happened. Maybe she could tell me what this whole thing was about. But something else nagged at me. The obituary, the timing. Why would someone burn down their house and leave their name on the obituary? What if he wasn't dead? What if the obituary was a cover? Suddenly, I felt the chill in the air again, that old sensation I used to feel in this house, The feeling that someone was always watching. My instincts screamed. I closed the laptop. That night, I slept with the attic door locked and a kitchen knife under my pillow. I told myself I was being paranoid. But just before dawn, I heard something, a soft creak, then a faint click. Like someone unlocking the attic from the other side. I didn't sleep after that sound. By morning, my eyes were dry, my nerves frayed. I told myself it was the house settling or the wind, but when I checked the attic door, the lock was undone, not broken, not forced, just unlocked. I didn't tell anyone, not my uncle, not even Emma. The deeper I fell into this mystery, the more I felt like it was mine alone to carry. But I needed help, not from friends, from someone who knew. That someone might be Sarah Roth. Her address was listed on a property registry as a small apple orchard about 20 miles from town, isolated. No phone number, no online footprint, just a name clinging to the edge of digital history like a forgotten ghost. That afternoon, I drove there. The gravel road cut through a dense forest, the kind where sunlight barely made it to the ground. Eventually, I reached a faded sign, Roth Family Orchard, by appointment only. Vines curled over the gate like fingers trying to keep me out. I hesitated, then pushed it open. The house beyond was modest, weathered wood, a tin roof, and a long porch. A single rocking chair moved slowly, though there was no wind. I stepped out of the car. "Hello," I called. "Is anyone here?" No answer. I approached the porch, heart racing. Just as I reached the steps, the door creaked open. A woman stood there, mid-30s, pale skin, dark eyes. She wore a long brown cardigan, frayed at the sleeves, and her hands were stained with something dark, soil or ink or something else. She looked at me like she'd been expecting me for years. "You're Margaret's daughter," she said. I froze. "How do you know that?" She stepped aside. "Come inside, before someone sees you." I didn't ask who someone was. Her living room smelled like dried herbs and old paper. There were no family photos, just stacks of notebooks and file boxes neatly labeled by year. She poured tea for both of us, but I didn't touch mine. "You know my mother?" I asked. She nodded. "She was my nurse, a long time ago, when I was sick." "What kind of sick?" She looked away. The kind Virex didn't want anyone to know about. I leaned forward. "What happened to her? Why did she disappear?" Sarah took a long time to answer. "She tried to save me, and others, children like me." I felt my throat tighten. "What did they do to you?" Her hand trembled as she sipped her tea. "We were subjects in a project they called Gen Ethos. They said it was for science, that we were gifted, that our blood carried something unique. But it wasn't about curing diseases. It was about control." I stared at her. Control? They were testing behavioral modulation, drugs, implants, neural conditioning, turning children into something else, something obedient. My stomach turned. And my mother tried to expose them? She gathered files, testimonies, even photos. She was close to making it public, but then she vanished. Do you know what happened to her? Sarah looked at me then, eyes glinting with something between sorrow and fear. "No one disappears without a reason. Your mother didn't run. She was taken, silenced." My breath caught. I reached into my bag and pulled out the list of names I'd found in the attic. "Do you recognize any of these?" Sarah scanned it. Her hand paused over one name. Elijah M. This one, he was special. They said he could remember everything, every sound, word, even pain. They kept him the longest. Did he survive? She hesitated. I don't know. I escaped before the last phase. Your mother helped me get out. I looked around her house. So quiet, so hidden. Why didn't you go public? I did. No one believed me. They said I was mentally unstable, that I fabricated memories from childhood trauma, that I was just a lonely girl with abandonment issues. They discredited you, I whispered. Sarah nodded. It's what they do. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she leaned closer. But I kept one thing, a key. Your mother gave it to me. She said it opened something that proved everything. She stood and walked to a drawer. From it, she retrieved a small metal key with a faded tag. It read, Vault R2, Holloway. She said if anything happened to her, her daughter would come looking one day. I took the key, my fingers shaking. Where is this vault? Under Graymore Bay, she whispered. The facility is gone, but the underground levels remain, sealed but not empty. Just then, I heard a car engine, tires crunching gravel. Sarah's face went pale. She rose quickly. You have to go. Now. They watch this place. Who? She didn't answer, just shoved me toward the back door. As I slipped out through the orchard, heart pounding, I realized this wasn't just a mystery anymore. It was a war I was inheriting. And somewhere beneath Graymore Bay, a vault waited, with secrets that someone would kill to keep buried. Graymore Bay didn't exist on most maps. Locals whispered about its curses, sinkholes, violent tides, sudden storms. But I knew better. It wasn't the sea they feared. It was what lay buried beneath. I waited until nightfall before heading out. The Holloway facility was long abandoned, its barbed wire rusted, buildings collapsing inward like secrets too heavy to hold. I parked half a mile away. Sarah's key, still warm in my pocket, felt alive. The front gate creaked open without resistance, wind moaning through broken glass. The place reeked of decay and something else, like silence that had teeth. Inside, the air was thick with mildew. The hallway labeled Sector R led me to a hidden hatch beneath shattered tiles. With effort, I pried it open. A cold, narrow staircase spiraled into the dark. At the bottom, a vault door. The key clicked. Once, twice. Then it opened. What I saw didn't belong in any world above ground. Rows of file cabinets, flickering cryopods, and shelves of reels and paper trails no one was meant to find. I scanned labels until one stopped me cold. Project Eden, Phase V. Inside, photos of children strapped to tables, brain scans, dosage logs, and one name I knew too well. Margaret Thorne. My mother, not a doctor, a test subject. Subject 11, age 8. I staggered back. All this time, she hadn't just exposed monsters, she had survived them. Shaking, I dug deeper and found a second file. Observation, Subject EM. Elijah, Sarah's mystery boy. His records were worse. Nonlinear memory, emotional instability, looping trauma. Final note, transferred to private sponsor. Status, off-grid. I snapped photos quickly, but then, a low hiss. One cryopod released a curl of steam and moved. My blood froze. The glass slid open, revealing a man, maybe my age, pale, shaved head, wires still embedded in his neck. His eyes were wide open, too open. "You're not supposed to be here," he said flatly. "I'm looking for the truth," I managed. "You already found it." He tilted his head. "Do you hear them too?" I didn't answer. "You look like her," he whispered. "Margaret. She used to sing to me when the lights went out." Emotion cracked his voice. Then came a scream, sharp and inhuman, as he clutched his head, collapsing. I didn't wait. I grabbed the files, a hard drive, and ran, up the stairs, through the dark, into the night. I didn't stop until I hit the car door and locked it behind me. My hands were shaking, my face wet with tears. Because I didn't just uncover secrets. I uncovered what they did to her, to all of them. And somehow, it wasn't over. I didn't go home. Not because I didn't want to, but because they might already be watching. Instead, I checked into a run-down motel outside Graymore Bay. No cameras, no questions, the kind of place people disappeared into without a trace. All night, I pored over the files I'd taken from Holloway. My hands shook as I read. So many children. Used, abandoned, labeled with numbers, not names. Subject 11, Margaret Thorne. Subject 17, Elijah. Subject 04, unknown. Then I found it. Audio Observations, MT. 3 cassette tapes. Only one still worked. I borrowed a dusty tape player from the front desk and pressed play. Static. Then, her voice. My mother's voice. "They say we're broken, just experiments, but I remember the lullabies and the rain. I won't forget who I am. Not for them, never for them." It was her, younger, softer, but unmistakably her. She'd recorded it like she knew someone would hear it one day, like she knew I would. That was the moment everything changed. I couldn't run anymore. I had to finish what she started. I sent the files anonymously to 3 investigative journalists. I uploaded a redacted version to an encrypted archive, then shared the link with the survivor network Sarah had once mentioned. Then I went home. The funeral had already passed. Her grave was small, tucked beneath a sycamore tree. Just a name, 2 dates, nothing more. I stood there for a long time, not crying, just remembering. The bruises, the silences, the moments she nearly told me the truth and then stopped. She wasn't perfect, but she was brave. Before I left, I buried the cassette in the soil. Let her voice live there. Let the earth remember her. A week passed, then 2. No word from the journalists, but the archive was spreading, quietly, globally. Still, I felt it again, that creeping dread, like someone was watching, waiting. Then one morning, a plain envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, a flash drive. And a note. "For the final piece. Finish it." I hesitated, then plugged it in. A video file. My mother, older now, staring straight into the camera. It had been recorded less than a year before her death. If you're watching this, it means they didn't stop me in time. Everything I told you was real, but not everything I said was the truth. They didn't just hurt us, they built something inside us. Some of us still carry it. Some of us pass it on. I froze. She looked tired, but clear-eyed, strong. Clearly, I had to keep you away from all of this. If they knew you were my daughter, they would have taken you. But now you know, and you're ready. Don't become like me. Be better. Then, static. I sat there for hours, stunned, then trembling, then crying. Not out of fear, but out of clarity. I was born into something I never asked for, but now I could choose what came next. 2 years later, Holloway was exposed. Arrests, lawsuits. Elijah's voice, once broken, was now broadcast across the world. Alive, healing. He made it out. So did I. I founded a center in my mother's name, for the survivors, for the silenced, for truth. They tried to erase us, but pain doesn't die in silence. It evolves in those brave enough to speak, and all never stop speaking. Not for her, not for them, not for myself. And that was the truth I almost never found. A buried past, a mother's hidden war, and a legacy I never asked for, but now I carry it with pride. Not all endings are tragic. Some are earned. If this story gave you chills or made you think twice about what lies beneath the surface of a perfect family, don't keep it to yourself. Hashtag like the video, detective subscribe for more dark twists and untold secrets, and share this with someone who loves a good mystery. Because here on Burned by Love, every secret has a heartbeat. See you in the next story.